Jian Jungkook had always been the mystery in the room, a silent figure among the illustrious Jian family. At just 19, he carried the weight of their name and fortune on his shoulders, yet he felt like a shadow in his own life. Bound by wealth and expectation, he was a silent heir in both title and nature, using sign language to communicate his thoughts and wishes to a world that seldom cared to understand. His stepmother, Mrs. Jian, had always resented him for reasons he couldn't fully grasp, and his half-sister Lisa thrived in the life he could only watch from behind invisible bars. But Mrs. Jian had one last twist to add to his cage: an arranged marriage. She decided that Jungkook's future would be bound to a man of equal prestige and wealth, Kim Taehyung, the son of an influential family with close ties to the Jians. Jungkook was devastated. He didn't know Kim Taehyung beyond what society whispered: arrogant, cold, powerful. The thought of being forced into a marriage with someone he'd never spoken to, someone who might only see him as a business asset, was a bitter pill to swallow. But Mrs. Jian was not interested in his feelings, nor did she believe his silence had any meaning. The night of the engagement party, Jungkook stood in the corner, watching Taehyung's tall figure glide through the crowd with practiced grace. When their eyes met, Jungkook felt a pang of dread. Taehyung's gaze was impassive, distant, almost dismissive, as though he were already burdened by this arrangement. When Taehyung finally approached him, his words were blunt and cold. "I don't want this either," he said, barely masking the disdain in his voice. Jungkook felt his heart drop. This was not a man who would understand him, let alone care for him. They married in silence, the ceremony a hollow exchange of vows neither believed in. The days that followed were filled with a painful distance. Taehyung avoided Jungkook whenever possible, leaving the young man alone in their lavish home, a stranger in his own marriage. Jungkook's attempts at connection were met with indifference or outright rejection. Taehyung entered Jungkook's life as an unyielding partner. Their marriage was a facet of prosperity, but beneath the surface, Jungkook sensed the distance. Taehyung treated Jungkook more like an asset than a spouse, communicating primarily through formalities. Despite their wealth, Jungkook felt lonely. Their home echoed with silence, and his attempts to connect with Taehyung were often met with indifference. Each evening, Jungkook would wander the garden, dreaming of a life where he could express himself freely. Days turned to weeks, and the icy wall between them grew thicker. Taehyung's resentment seemed rooted in something deeper, something Jungkook couldn't understand. Despite his outward calm, Jungkook's heart ached every day, the loneliness suffocating him. One night, after a heated argument with Mrs. Jian, Jungkook retreated to his room, feeling the weight of his past and present pushing him to the edge. Taehyung walked in, barely sparing him a glance before muttering, "Stop acting like a martyr. You're just as trapped in this as I am." The words stung, but it was then that Jungkook's silence broke, not with words, but in the form of a simple, tearful sign language phrase: "I never chose this." One fateful day, while exploring a local art gallery, Jungkook met Yuna, an artist whose vibrant paintings radiated life and emotion. Her laughter filled the space, captivating him. Unlike anyone else, Yuna easily engaged with him, understanding his signs and seeing the beauty behind his silence. Their connection blossomed, and Jungkook found solace in her presence. Each visit to the gallery became a refuge where he felt truly seen. Yuna's art reflected his inner turmoil and desires, igniting a flame of hope within him. As Jungkook's friendship with Yuna deepened, so did Taehyung's unease. The more Jungkook connected with Yuna, the more Taehyung felt a pang of jealousy, a realization that he cared for Jungkook in a way he hadn't acknowledged before. At a charity event, Jungkook and Yuna shared laughter and stories, their chemistry undeniable. Taehyung watched from a distance, his expression darkening as he saw the light in Jungkook's eyes when he was with her. That night, Taehyung confronted Jungkook. "You spend too much time with her," he signed, his tones sharper than he intended. "What do you even see in her?" Taken aback, Jungkook felt the frustration bubble up. "She understands me in ways you never have," he signed fiercely, the words hanging in the air, igniting a fire within Taehyung. In that moment, both men realized how much they had come to care for Jungkook. Taehyung's jealousy and protectiveness intertwined with a deep-seated affection, while Jungkook felt the weight of expectations crushing his spirit. With emotions running high, Jungkook made a bold decision. "We need to be honest with each other," he signed, his hands trembling with urgency. Taehyung met his gaze, heart pounding. "I care about you, Jungkook." As weeks passed, a strange shift occurred. Taehyung began noticing the small things, the sadness in Jungkook's eyes, the way he withdrew into himself whenever others were around. Slowly, Taehyung's harshness softened, replaced by an unspoken regret for the pain he'd added to Jungkook's life. Their cold interactions started to melt as Taehyung offered small gestures of comfort, leaving food outside Jungkook's room, sitting quietly beside him at meals, even learning basic signs to communicate. Jungkook, cautious and wary, found himself drawn to these moments, longing for the connection he'd missed his whole life. The turning point came on a rainy evening. Taehyung found Jungkook standing by the window, lost in thought, looking almost fragile. Without a word, he approached him, gently placing a hand on his shoulder. Surprised, Jungkook turned, their eyes meeting in a silent exchange of emotions. Slowly, tentatively, Taehyung signed back to him, "I'm sorry." It was the first time Jungkook saw Taehyung's true vulnerability, the facade cracking to reveal a man who carried his own share of loneliness and regret. Their connection grew from there, in stolen moments and quiet conversations. Taehyung's actions spoke louder than words, conveying an understanding, a warmth Jungkook had yearned for. In time, Taehyung confessed his own fear, of being used, of trusting others, of never truly being seen. They were both scarred, trapped by their families' expectations and past betrayals, but in each other, they found solace. What started as forced became real. What was once painful evolved into a bond neither could deny. With Yuna's encouragement, Jungkook and Taehyung began to redefine their relationship. They spent more time together, allowing vulnerability to seep into their interactions. Jungkook discovered a side of Taehyung he had never seen, compassionate, tender, and fiercely protective. As they navigated their feelings, Jungkook found himself drawn to both Taehyung and Yuna, their love intertwining in unexpected ways. He felt torn, unsure of how to balance the connections that had changed his life. Months passed, bringing Jungkook and Taehyung closer than either of them could have imagined. Their relationship had grown from cold indifference to a love filled with understanding, trust, and comfort. The shadows of their past were still there, but together, they had begun to build a future that felt truly theirs. One evening, as they sat by the fireplace, a quiet warmth filling the room, Jungkook felt a yearning he could no longer ignore. He took a deep breath, signing slowly to Taehyung, his heart pounding with both excitement and fear. "What do you think about having children?" The question hung in the air, and for a moment, Jungkook wondered if he had crossed a line. But Taehyung's expression softened, his eyes reflecting a warmth and a hint of surprise. He reached out, gently taking Jungkook's hand before signing. "Do you really want to?" Jungkook nodded eagerly, his face lighting up. The thought of raising a family together, of giving a child the love and security he had longed for himself, was something that filled him with an indescribable joy. "I think it would be amazing," he signed, his excitement almost tangible. Taehyung smiled, a genuine expression that reached his eyes, the cold mask he once wore completely gone. "Then let's do it," he signed back, a sense of warmth and pride filling his gestures. "Let's build a family." After several months of trying, Jungkook began to feel uncharacteristically tired and emotional. He suspected something was different. One morning, he took a test, his heart pounding in anticipation. When the two pink lines appeared, tears of joy filled his eyes. He was going to be a father. That evening, he surprised Taehyung with the news. When he signed it out, Taehyung's eyes widened in disbelief, then pure joy washed over his face. He enveloped Jungkook in a tight embrace, whispering words of love and excitement. Pregnancy was not without its challenges. Jungkook experienced mood swings, shifting from elation to anxiety in the blink of an eye. Taehyung was supportive but often found himself bewildered by the whirlwind of emotions. One night, overwhelmed by cravings, Jungkook broke down over something trivial. "I want ice cream," he signed, tears streaming down his face. Taehyung watched helplessly, understanding but unable to alleviate the frustration. "Let's go get it," he suggested, determination in his voice. They drove through the night, eventually finding a small market that had Jungkook's favorite flavor. As they shared the ice cream together, laughter erupted between them, easing the tension and reminding them of their love. As the pregnancy progressed, Jungkook and Taehyung prepared for their new arrival. They decorated the nursery together, selecting soft colors and toys. Jungkook felt a sense of fulfillment as they worked side by side, planning a future that seemed bright. Yet, as the due date approached, Jungkook's anxiety resurfaced. What if he wasn't a good father? What if Taehyung regretted their decision? These thoughts consumed him, leading to more mood swings that left Taehyung concerned. One evening, after an emotional outburst, Jungkook found himself alone in the garden, staring at the stars. Taehyung quietly joined him, wrapping an arm around his shoulders. "You're going to be an incredible father," he reassured. "And I'll be right here with you." Finally, the day arrived when Jungkook went into labor. Panic and excitement intertwined as they rushed to the hospital. Taehyung held Jungkook's hand tightly, grounding him as the contractions intensified. Hours later, amidst the chaos, Jungkook heard the first cries of their baby. It was a moment of pure joy, washing away all fears. Taehyung held their newborn daughter, tears in his eyes, as Jungkook's heart swelled with love. As new parents, Jungkook and Taehyung faced sleepless nights and endless diaper changes. The early days were chaotic, with both men navigating their roles. Jungkook struggled with feelings of inadequacy, doubting his ability to be a nurturing father. One night, overwhelmed by exhaustion, Jungkook snapped at Taehyung over a trivial matter. The silence that followed was heavy. Taehyung, hurt but understanding, took a step back, giving Jungkook space to process his emotions. Realizing his mistake, Jungkook approached Taehyung later that night. "I'm sorry," He signed, tears in his eyes. I'm just scared. Taehyung pulled him close, whispering, we are in this together. You're not alone.